Conventional wisdom said that, Yash Raj will never make this kind of a film. They do different kind of cinema. I remember the Afghan minister for security coming to me and said, tomorrow if you go back to Bombay, it'll be a defeat for Afghanistan. Without the support of the people of Afghanistan, my first film would not have been completed, and I probably wouldn't have been a filmmaker.
Hi Kabir, welcome to the Quint.
Hi, thank you so much.
Tell me something, how did Kabul Express happen for you?
So, as I said, this was, this happened to me, and I realized that I must start writing a script. And then another incident happened in Afghanistan, which in a certain sense is the seed of the idea for Kabul Express, where we were trying to, at that point in time, a lot of these foreign mercenaries who were fighting with Taliban were being captured, and they were being put in this prison called Doab, which was on the border with Tajikistan. And this was really a distance away in the mountains near the Tajik border. And we reached there, and there was this like a big prison, and there were probably about 40, 50 so-called terrorists with shackles and chains sitting over there, from various countries. And obviously we started talking more to the ones who were from Pakistan because they understood our language. There's one gentleman who spoke a lot to us called Khalid, and when we were leaving, Khalid came running to us and he said, can I make a call from your satellite phone? And that was a little tricky because, in those days we knew that the Americans are tracking these satellite phones that are being used by the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda, and he was from the Taliban. And if we gave him our satellite phone, he makes us call, the next thing we know there's a cruise missile coming for our satellite phone. But somehow we relented and, let him make that call. And, in that phone call, I realized he called home. And we realized that this is the first call in, I don't know, maybe 3 years, 2 years that he had made home. And his family thought he was dead till that moment. And then he called for his daughter, and Khalid was this, the stereotype of a Taliban terrorist with a flowing beard and tall, broad guy, and he just like crumbled into a sobbing father when his young daughter came onto the phone. And for me, it was, I realized that there's a human story behind everybody. You don't need to agree with their viewpoints and their ideology and all, but there's a human story, and that's the power of being able to make films where you can try and explore a human story behind any political headline, and that's a space that's always attracted me. And so that, in a certain sense, is the seed of the idea for Kabul Express, and I started writing that. It was too new for that point in time. It didn't have the usual 6 songs and a love story. It was still, without songs. It was a short film. It was 105 minutes, to be shot in Afghanistan. Some of them, of course, thought this guy's mad. How the hell is he going to shoot this in Afghanistan? Is not possible. So, conventional wisdom said that, Yash Raj will never make this kind of a film. They do different kind of cinema. But unknown to me, a friend of mine had taken my script and given it to Aditya Chopra because he knew that Adi is looking for scripts outside of his comfort zone, looking for something new. And out of the blue, I got this call from Yash Raj saying that Aditya Chopra wants to meet you. And I was like, wow, somebody's pulling my leg, because as the joke goes, like, you don't even know whether Aditya Chopra exists. Like, the joke in Yash Raj is that Aditya Chopra is something that Yash Chopra has created to scare people. So I didn't take it seriously. My wife Mini was in MTV at that point in time, and there used to be this show called Bakra and Brocha, and all these guys were friends. So I was half expecting this to be a Bakra, like before I reach Yash Raj, somebody will jump out from the bushes and there'll be a big Bakra and we'll all have a big laugh. There was no Bakra. The gates opened. I went in. I was taken to the first floor, and I'll never forget that moment. Aditya Chopra's room. I opened the door, and Adi was standing there. I remember he was cleaning his glasses, and he looked up and he says, "Hi Kabir," he says, "I really loved your script. When can we make it?" And that's it. That's how in a certain sense, my career began. Liked the script so much, he said, "I'm going to sign you for 3 films." And that happened.
You've had too many run-ins with the Taliban, the terrorists. Like, how do you do this? I don't know. How did you even get through it? How did you want to go back to that?
So, to be honest, a lot of people ask me that, and John used to joke with me and say, "You're a bloody suicide bomber," But it wasn't all that. It wasn't false bravado. If you go back now, you realize that around 2005, the Taliban was considered to have been pretty much over. It was passé. They were not there. The resurgence happened actually in 2006, but we didn't know that, and we started shooting, and strangely in the first 10, 12 days of our shooting, the first 3 suicide bombings in Kabul took place. And everybody was confused because suicide bombings was not something that was usually used by the Taliban. It was a more Al-Qaeda tactic. There were a lot of international crews like BBC, CNN, who found us to be a very interesting story. Like, Bollywood in war-torn Afghanistan, post-Taliban Afghanistan, they started doing interviews with us, they started coming in covering us. And the Taliban, which was like sitting, saying that this is not the picture we want going out, that everything is so normal that, you can shoot a film over here. And that's when the death threats began. They started tracking us, they started sending spies. One day when we were shooting, we got a call from the Indian ambassador, and he called us, and we went to the embassy, and he said that, we got this very credible intelligence tip-off from the Americans, from the Indian intelligence agencies and the Afghans, that 5-member team has been sent by the Taliban to hit out at your crew. And you will need to reassess the entire situation and get security. And for us it was, because it's not like you're not getting a death threat from the underworld, you're getting death threat from the most dreaded terrorist organization of the world at that point in time. So we shut down shooting, and I immediately, because in the list that was there, in the death threat, John and Arshad's name was pretty much up there along with mine and Rajan. So I immediately shut shoot, and I sent John and Arshad back to Bombay, and then we reassessed the situation. We spoke to our ambassador, we spoke to the Afghan security people, the Afghan Minister of Security, and they took it upon themselves as an ego issue, because they said, how dare the Taliban stop a shoot in Afghanistan? We will never let that happen. And I remember the Afghan Minister for Security coming to me and said, tomorrow if you go back to Bombay, it will be a defeat for Afghanistan. I said, I don't need that.
Like, where am I caught?
I'm trying to sort of look after my crew and their lives. But I must say, they gave us incredible security, and the Indian ambassador told me, he said, I've never seen this kind of security being given to even a head of state. I mean, literally we had 60 armed commandos round the clock with us, and when I say armed, I mean armed by Afghan standards. They had rocket launchers and Kalashnikovs and grenade launchers.
You're only surrounded by arms, guns.
And they just landed up at our hotel, and they took over our shoot, and they said, no call sheets. Nobody except you knows where we're going tomorrow. Just seen like you see the making of Kabul Express is like as exciting as the film itself, because it's like, our motorcade would like spread out for a mile. There were about 35, 40 SUVs with guns sticking out everywhere. And without the support of the people of Afghanistan, my first film would not have been completed, and I probably wouldn't have been a filmmaker.
Thank you so much, Kabir. It was such a
you.
pleasure chatting with you, and
Thanks
I hope I see you soon.